Hello everyone, and welcome to your first Android Studio tutorial. In this tutorial we'll go over what you need to start programming Android applications. The first thing you're going to need is an IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment. What an integrated development environment is basically a program to help you create programs. So if you've ever done web pages, if you've ever used Dreamweaver or Aptana, or if you've ever done C++ programming under Microsoft Visual Studio or under the Qt, all of that stuff is basically IDEs. It basically creates a development environment for you. So, Android has created their own IDE for developing Android apps. So if you type in Android Studio into your Google search, the very first link right here is download Android Studio and SDK tools. You're going to click on that and it's going to take you to the Android Studio site. This is the official IDE for Android. So if you see in the address bar, developer.android.com. So if we go back to developers, this is the actual Android developers website. So it talks about training, API guides, references, samples, Android Studio, Android NDK, Google services, and talks about Android Studio 2.1 now being available. It's the full out developers webpage. That's where Android Studio is coming from. So right here it says download Android Studio 2.1 for Linux. I'm a Linux user, so it's going to say Linux. If you are a Windows user, it'll say Windows or whatever operating system you're using. So if I click on this, it's going to open up terms and conditions. You can read through them if you want. Click that you have read and agree, and then you're going to download Android Studio. Now, I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to skip the next step. Once you have it downloaded, you're just going to extract it to wherever you want. If you're using Windows, I'm not sure if it's just a zip file like it is for Linux. But sometimes Windows has its own executable files that place things where Windows wants them. Alright, now that you have installed Android Studio, you unzipped it, you're going to go ahead and run it. On your first run, it will take the longest to load versus any other time you run it. So the first thing it's going to do is, for completing an installation, it wants to know if it is importing settings from a previous version of Studio. We're not worried about that. We're just going to say I do not have a previous version and click OK. It's going to pop up the Android Studio setup wizard. Welcome Android Studio. Now if you are using Linux, you might get this. I don't think very many Windows people will get this. But I have the OpenJDK installed versus the Oracle JDK, so it will tell me that it has intermittent performance and UI issues, and that they recommend using Oracle. I'm just going to click Do Not Show Again so I don't get the warning anymore. So welcome. This wizard will help you set up your development environment for Android Studio. Additionally, the wizard will help port existing Android apps into Android Studio or create a new Android application project. So we're just going to hit Next. And we're just going to do standard install. Next. This tells me that this is going to be the SDK folder. It's going to download 803 megabytes. These are all the files it's going to download, the size of them, and we're just going to hit Next. And it's going to tell me that we've detected that your system can run Android emulator in an accelerated performance mode. Linux-based systems support virtual machine acceleration through KVM, kernel mode virtual machine software package. If you're interested in that, you'll click this button, or you can just Google Android KVM Linux. So we're going to hit finish, and it's going to start downloading. And the download is going to take a very long time, depending on what your internet speed is. So I'm going to pause the screencast until we get to the finish. Alright, so now that it's done downloading, now that it's finished, You can look in here, you can see all the jar files, all the files. These are all everything that was downloaded and that was basically unzipped and put wherever it needs to go. So we're just going to click finish, and then it's going to take you to the very first screen that you will always see whenever you open Android Studio. Now if you leave a project open and then reopen Android Studio, it'll automatically open into the last project you were in. But if you're closing your projects before you exit Android Studio, it'll open up to this one. Once you have some projects that you've actually worked on, there will be a left pane right here that will have Hello World, Example 1, Example 2, whatever project names are your most recent project names. So now that we have Android Studio installed, we're going to look at some of the options. Start new Android Studio project, open existing project, check out from version control, import project from Eclipse, import Android code sample, configure, and get help. So before we can actually start a new Android project, we're going to have to configure a few things. So go down here, click on configure. It's got several different options. We're only worried about the Sdk Manager right now. So click on Sdk Manager. And the Sdk Manager opens up. So the Sdk update sites, this is just all the sites that it's going to look for tools and for the SDKs. Over here under SDKs, these are all the extra tools that you can get with it. So like Google Play billing, Google Play licensing, the NDK is in here. If we go over to Sdk Platforms, that's what we're going to worried about for the moment. So you'll see we got Android 7.0 Nugget. So each version of Android has a different code number and code name. So if you know anything about Android already, you probably understand the terms gingerbread, honeycomb, ice cream sandwich, jelly bean. Right now most people are starting, if you get a phone this year, you're probably going to get it with marshmallow on it. If you get a really new phone, you might get Nugget on it, but I believe Nugget's the one that's currently under development, so I doubt any of the phones are actually going to have that one on it yet. So we're going to select all the way down to the end of the beginning of Jelly Bean, so 4.1, which is API level 16. So API is a term for application programming interface, I think. It's been a while since I've learned my terminologies. But basically, whenever 4.1 Jelly Bean came out, all the different functions and different functionalities that the Android phone was able to do, that was the max that they had programmed in there. And then, you know, they learned more things, they added more things, they added more options, and now you got Marshmallow where you have all these cool options that you didn't have back then. So why would we want to install all of these? The reason why is there's probably about maybe 5% of people who actually have Marshmallow on their phone right now. There's probably about 95% of people who have Jelly Bean. Is what I've learned, and I've learned this by being married, is some people just don't want to update their phones. Some people refuse to update their phones. They like what they like, they like what they know. And then if you're somebody like me, you say, oh, there's an upgrade. So that's the general gist of this. So you're just going to hit apply, and then it's going to tell you the components that will be installed. You can hit OK, and it'll take you to another license agreement. So you basically have to accept another license agreement for all of the SDKs that you're downloading. So you just hit accept and next, and wait and watch and let it download. Alright, now that that's done, you see that it shows all the SDKs. It basically just downloaded zip files and extracted it for you. Then you're going to hit finish, and we're just going to hit OK. And now we're back to the main start screen. So that, in a nutshell, is how you get your IDE set up and ready to go. On the next tutorial, we will go over how to get a basic project set up. So next world, we will be doing Hello World. Until then,